The only way you can trap somebody in a slave mindset like that is if at first you cut their root systems. Our root systems have been cut when they adjusted the history books, when they burned the Mayan books, when they took everybody's cosmology across the earth plane and turned it into this heliocentric illusion. Every single part of how we interpret our reality, down to the relationships we have with our loved ones and the relationships that we have with our own children, our future generations, even our previous generations, all of this has been broken down. We put the elders in these retirement homes to just wither and wilt away into nothing, and all of their wisdom and all of their connections and all of the family dynamics that happen non-physically, largely everything that happens when you buy into the Western interpretation of reality, of how things are supposed to be according to what the norm is, what the social norm is. Everything about that is designed to separate you from nature. It's not just chemtrails. It's not just genetically modified foods. You have genetically modified relationships, genetically modified history, genetically modified cosmology, genetically modified education, genetically modified so-called politics. Everything has been genetically modified, because the genetics that this system is playing with are the non-physical genetics, the genetics that exist where your consciousness is sucked into a mind control program to where it's not a consciousness anymore. They've turned consciousness, or it has turned consciousness into a robot, into a Happy Meal, into a box, something that just follows orders. So me having the history of being in the Army 7 years, having been through that and gotten out of that, escaped that mind control program, because that's exactly what it is. All of the mind control programs that they are playing on civilians were first tested on soldiers and still happening today. All of your vaccines, these are like mad scientists. Science is basically, the scientism is basically the magic spell for like the Sorcerer's Apprentice. If you've seen like Fantasia, you can see this is actually the Mickey Mouse part of it. This is actually what's happening. There's a real magic to this universe, and you get this cheap, separated from the universe itself magician who steps into the scene and just uses that magic for its own benefit. It doesn't have any concern other than its own power, its own control, and its own ability to manipulate the reality, even at the expense of others, even at the expense of everybody and everything that is natural. So when we can understand that there is a natural flow to things, do you think that the mainstream reality fits in there? Not at all. In fact, the mainstream reality fits around that space to distract you from the natural space. So when you understand that, it's pretty easy to trace that mind control program all the way back to its origins. And you can go for however far you want to go. I usually go back to the beginning of what we call civilization, because it's not civilization. When the colonizers and when the Columbian era jumped off, they called this the New World. And like I said in the last video, that is an act of war on the people who were already existing outside of the illusory world that they were trying to promote to people. So they used the Bible, they used Christianity, they used eugenics, they used the university system, they used heliocentrism, they used manifest destiny, they used weapons, the sword, concrete, they used biological, chemical warfare, smallpox blankets, they used psychological warfare on the people, making them hate themselves, which is still happening today. And now, since people are fed up with hating themselves, now they gotta feed people this fake ass love, which is just worse than hating yourself. When you have a fake ass love for yourself, you still have a hate for yourself, and it's so bad, it's so deeply ingrained in your reality that you don't even see it anymore, because it's hidden by this artificial love. And this Black Panther movie is that shit. This fake ass people being all proud of Wakanda and the kings of Hollywood. Why are you asking to be seen and represented by people who don't give a shit about you? The Marvel universe is not your universe. It's the mainstream mind control program to keep you separated from your universe. Listen to these people in these interviews. They don't give a shit. This shit is a game. They've taken what the Black Panthers went through. They're still political prisoners in jail right now because they were falsely imprisoned by COINTELPRO, the FBI, and the very system that people are following and protecting today, talking about make America great again and all this other shit. All this shit that Alex Jones been putting out there. Like I said, it ain't always about what you are talking about. It's what you're not talking about. So people like Alex Jones are all on the nuts of people like Donald Trump and all the forefathers for this country because they need to distract you from your maximum potential of really challenging the system. So people like Alex Jones set up this fake ass, it's a shallow Hegelian dialectic. Globalists versus the patriots. The patriots are the Americana, the ones who are connected to the forefathers. He doesn't give a shit about you. He's an actor. People like Alex Jones are talking about the symptoms of the cancer, not the cancer itself. The cancer is the problem. The cancer is at the epicenter of the way we perceive this reality as a whole. This is the alchemy of the mainstream media to maintain that stagnant nature, that stagnant consciousness that can't even see itself. Because it doesn't know what it is. It doesn't know how to see. It's too busy being distracted by social media, Hollywood, mind control programs like the Black Panther movie and all this other stuff that's out there. We are bombarded by distraction, and anytime you talk about anything that's real, that exists outside the mainstream mind control program, you are attacked. It's not a one-dimensional chess game. One-dimensional chess is like Alex Jones and TYT. It's like, you know, the mainstream media is full of shit. You know they're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 steps ahead of you. But you still play the game as if they're not engaging in a spiritual warfare, as if they're not engaging in a psychological warfare. Because the one-dimensional chess game is sucked into basically like the post-Columbian idea of what's really going on. All this QAnon stuff, the Illuminati, the cabal, the aliens, all this shit is a distraction. It's a real world TV show. All the false flags, all that stuff. It's designed to make this universe, this movie real as possible. So you don't actually understand, and overstand you as the experiencer, and then start understanding the experience. You can't understand the experience if you're distracted by the reality that they have promoted to you as real. So if you're distracted for your entire life, you have people living and dying not even knowing who the hell they are, repeating these cycles. So people are following the actor that plays the Black Panther, calling him a king because he played the game that the slave masters told him to play. And people are going to follow him. And how far is he going to go? Only as far as the system allows him to go, just like everybody else. That's how they trap people in the consciousness of who. If you're trapped in the consciousness of following a who, you will never know what is going on. You will not allow yourself to know what is going on because you are too busy trying to defend somebody else's interpretation of what is going on. You are following a person. You're following a thing. You're largely following an illusion if you're following the people who are trapped in that mainstream world and don't reference any other reality. So you got people trapped in the consciousness of who? That's the bulk. You're raised in a system that's designed to trap your mind. Just imagine a baby breastfeeding right now and the mother being physically or psychologically abused by her husband, or psychologically abused by the television that's on. The baby is looking up, staring into the eyes of its mother while it's being programmed by the television. Breastfeeding while watching the television. The baby is watching you, listening to what you're looking at. Breaks off of the breast for a moment to look at what you're looking at and creates a relationship with what the mother is looking at. That's some deep ass mind control. And it goes beyond the mind into the spirit. So once they get into kindergarten, it's done. You have a race, in a sense, a prison full of zombies who were already pre-programmed by their parents, who they themselves were pre-programmed by their parents, and so on and so forth. Ultimately, the scientism religion, just like simulation theory as a religion, just like the mainstream Columbian era as a religion, these systems are a for-profit company or a for-profit industry. And it's not about money. Money is just a representation of the power. It's not about the money, it's about the power. The power is what these people are going for, or what these entities are going for. People who are bought into the system, they're going for it too. It's the same thing. But largely, these systems are created to affect you spiritually. So it's a non-physical entity of some sort that is affecting our physical and non-physical realities. So the whip and the whipping post back in the day was the way they maintained power and control. Whereas the whipping post and the whip of today is mainstream media, social media, and all these movies in Hollywood that are out there that make you whip yourself, that make you enslave yourself. You've already been broken away from the spirit. That's why people were tied to the whipping post and used as examples to make other people confess their whatevers to the Christian God. Or to get more deeply than that, the artificial God that is connected to nothing natural. It's a commercial. It's a drive-through McDonald's Happy Meal version of spirituality. And you can't convince people, just like you can't change people. You can't convince people to engage in a physical warfare if at first you haven't convinced them to be trapped within a psychological warfare. And you can't convince an individual or trap an individual with whatever magic you're using to be trapped in a psychological warfare if at first they weren't spiritually trapped in a spiritual warfare. So this is why the slaves had to be beat down back in the day. This is why religion was such a big deal in slavery. This scientism interpretation of the reality is the infrastructure of how and why you should be locking into their universe and locking yourself out of the natural relationship that you have to the universe. The synthetic universe, the heliocentric universe, is the infrastructure of separating you from the organic universe. And it's a religion. So everything in this universe has to be reflecting or mirroring something that is natural. And when they reflect or mirror something that is natural and then tell you we are studying this and eventually we will understand what it actually is, it's basically the definition of a theory. And then they say, well, science is based upon theories. So the scientism community that's built up of nothing but theories becomes your new universe. And they have, in that same moment, synthesized your consciousness and sold it back to you as reality. And since that synthetic consciousness is now inside of you, it's inside of you, eating away at your higher mind, stopping you from, these theories are literally stopping you from asking questions about your reality, stopping you from being able to critically think about your reality. That's how far this shit goes. It's a science. What happens in this for-profit scientism religion being pawned off as the evolutionary peak of humanity, they mirror things that are natural and then run it up to a point to where the end of their interpretation of this reality gets turned into a theory. And since they have created a universe that's based upon theories, theoretical interpretations of this universe, since they've done that, then everybody thinks that theories are actual facts. And that's as far as you need to go, because the system of science has created that space for you. That's the foundation of the infrastructure of the scientism religion that keeps you from critically thinking for yourself. So not only do they mimic nature to make you believe that it's real and that they're on course for doing something for the betterment of humanity, they also put this false concern out there for you. This is where global warming comes in. This is where all this sustainable environment, the humanities comes in. The university versions of humanities. This is why they have the humanities programs in these university systems. They're like politicians. You think politicians give a shit about you? They don't. But they stand out there in front of a camera for hours upon hours, hand in hand with actors from Hollywood, telling you that they care about you, telling you that they're working for you. And even if they are thinking themselves personally that they are working for you, they are inherently not working for you, because they're working for a system that makes its money off of working against you. So since they can't whip you physically anymore, you have to whip yourself with the 9 to 5, with the religious programming, with the SpaceX programming, with the Black Panther movie programming. That's today's whip. Psh, oh, you don't think SpaceX is real? Psh, you don't like the Black Panther movie? Psh, they just constantly whipping your ass. And you, as the parent, are whipping your child when you take them to go see this and that, and they get all proud and all like, oh yeah, I'm glad we're having representation in this slave master system. You are the slave master now. We're talking about caring for this world 7 generations out. We can't even get people to fucking give a shit about their generation sitting right next to them, sitting in the same room. The parents don't give a shit about these generations. That's the status quo. That's the social norm. People are working 60 hours a week and still can't get enough food on the damn table. It's on purpose. It's not a damn mistake. You think it's a mistake that there are guns in the inner cities? Where are the gun companies? Where are the gun manufacturers? It's people at the tippy top of this system putting the guns, putting the drugs in the communities on purpose to have an effect. This shit ain't new. Science, politics, the education system, your relationships, the mainstream media, the false flags, conspiracy theories, the movies, all this entertainment, everything. It's one big show. Smoke and mirrors. They get all those celebrities to go to those galas and those award shows dressed in all that stuff to make it seem real. To suck your kids into that movie as if that's how they're supposed to be. So you have this gauntlet of lost people keeping people lost in the lost system. Democrats and Republicans, progressives, aggressive progressives, the info war, make America great again, Trump and SpaceX, Trump, Alex Jones, and Elon Musk, the 3 musketeers, charging the way for America to be number 1. Buy this bone broth. And creating these fake ass teams. This is the World Wrestling Federation. That's what it is. And people think it's real. So the system is not designed to help people or nature at all. It needs these fake problems to provide fake answers. This is what these false flags are. This is what these fake politicians, these Donald Trump is a fake problem because they put him out there to be a fake person. The system itself is a fake system designed to provide real problems that the fake system can look like a superhero for solving. And the beat goes on every other year, every other 4 years, 8 years, every other false flag, every other event that's being promoted out onto your construct, into your reality as supposing to be reality. You're supposed to be just smart enough to do the job that needs to be done for a slave, and just dumb enough to not ask any questions about the slave system. And the system is getting smarter. It seems to be appearing to get smarter because the people are getting smarter. This is why you have so many false flags now. You have to be constantly distracted, triggered back into your primal energy centers, back into your emotional body, your lower chakras, your lower energy centers, your physical nature, your fight or flight. This basic interpretation of this reality, this physical, it's not to look down on any way. I'm just saying, just emphasizing it in reference to the higher nature of your soul and your higher mind, which is the majority. It's the 99.99999 forever percent of who and what you actually are. That's where your power truly lies. But if you give 99% of your power away to 0.001% of the illusions that they're selling to you, then who are you now? You're nothing. You're 99% of nothing. And the 0.0001% that actually is still holding on to who and what you are is struggling to stay alive, struggling to stay, because you're constantly adding those zeros to that 0.001% every time you buy into one of their illusions. Every false flag adds a zero to that 0.001% of you understanding what's going on. Every Black Panther movie that they put out there is adding another zero to your reality and moving you further and further and further away from understanding who you are, truly. So global warming, false flags, gun control, this is all people control. It's revolt control. They control the guns, they control your ability to revolt. This is why the system has to promote this super nice, super amazing, super free idea of itself. The so-called free nation has the majority of the people around the world locked up. 25% of the total amount of people locked up around the world is in this one little nation. Yet this is the free nation. See, we could spend an entire week breaking that down and spreading that out to how it connects to everything else, the tentacles of where that mind control program also goes. People are so distracted and moving so much that we can't even do that. You're not allowed to do that. You're an outcast if you start doing something like that. So what this is a savior program. This mentality that's being promoted in the Hegelian dialectic, the good guys versus the bad guys, it's a savior program. It's the same thing like Jesus. The Jesus coming to save everything. The Jesus that is the perfection that you will never achieve. If they put that, see, the Jesus program is just like the Big Bang program. It's the opposite version of that, but it has the same effect. The Big Bang makes you think that you're worthless, you're empty, you're nothing, you have no meaning and you're no purpose. You're just dead already. Just do what the system tells you to do, because you're just an extension of a monkey. You're an animal in a suit. Shut your mouth, go back to work. The Jesus program does the same thing in the other way. The Jesus program says, you are a piece of shit. You're a sinner. And this dude had to die for all your shitty ass sins and all your ancestors. See, he's the only perfect one. What does he look like? He's perfect, okay? That's what it is. There's a book explaining his perfection. He died for you, you ungrateful piece of shit. How dare you? So where are you in that scenario? The same place you were in the Big Bang. A nothing, empty, dead piece of shit who only has hopes of trying to be like that dude who is just he's just the example of perfection. It puts your responsibility to be better further away from you under the guise of bringing that closer to you. So just like the politicians and the synthetic system provides fake problems to provide fake answers, they provide fake spirituality to provide fake relationships with your spirit and your soul. It's the same thing. People are being played by hustlers, pirates, and criminals who don't give a shit about you at all. At all. So the Savior programming, a good example of that was the Manifest Destiny. They came over to this land and said, we are doing this for your benefit. Take these smallpox blankets and don't ask no questions. What treaties, bitch? 500 treaties? What treaties? They straight deboed this whole land. And then when you say anything about it, you're put out there as ungrateful. Fuck you. And anybody else who is also protecting that system. This might sound extreme right now, but for some people it's not extreme at all. Because a lot of people are saying this shit every day. You just can't say it out loud because you're going to be attacked by those people. You'll be an outcast because that's the status quo. Ignorance, pride in this genocidal system. Whether they're ignorantly protecting it or consciously protecting it, it's the same thing to me. You providing the same outcome. And energetically, your intent is the same. It has the same effect on people, on children. So the science behind creating the terminology manifest destiny, that's an alchemy. It's a magic spell. It's an actual science. There's a science behind that. The same science that's behind creating the understanding or the illusion of manifest destiny is the same science behind believing that politicians give a shit about you. The same science behind thinking that the Black Panther movie is made for you or is made for your benefit. It's not. It's a mind control program. And there is a science behind it. And if you are walking around priding yourself in being a critical thinker and you ain't said shit about the science that's breaking people down, are you really critically thinking or are you just making commercials for critical thinking? There's a difference between critically thinking and talking about critical thoughts. Those are two different things. There's people who critically think about every single thing that they experience in this reality. And then you have these people who are promoted on stuff like YouTube, the mainstream media, social media, and so on and so forth, who are just talking about critical thoughts. It's the difference between potential and kinetic energy. People build themselves up with this potential energy talking about critical thoughts, but they don't do shit with it. They just get fat, full of all this pride of potential energy. Critical thoughts are surrounding my world. My body, look how strong my body is, filled with all these critical thoughts. What are you doing with those critical thoughts? Nothing, just look at how strong my body is. Look at these biceps. You know how long it took to do that? Dedication. The fuck out of here. You're in the wrong gym. Pride in yourself in that bullshit. Oh, you might as well just go watch the Black Panther movie and think that's some revolutionary shit. It's the same thing. Jump on the Trump train with Alex Jones. Call yourself a patriot. So what happens is this system overcomplicates the basic sciences. So like I said, we are only told the basic nature of a basic out of balance interpretation of real science. And the complexities are what are really affecting us, but we don't know the actual science. We don't know what's actually going on. We don't do anything about it because we don't know how to do anything. If you don't know how to think for yourself, you're not going to be able to do anything with the thoughts and the new thoughts that are coming into your reality. So the system is based upon keeping you from critically thinking, from critically doing anything with those critical thoughts. They don't give a shit what you're actually thinking about, those thoughts that are there, because they are banking on you never being able to connect the dots and do anything with those critical thoughts. That's why they don't give a shit about all the false flags and how fake all this shit looks. Like all that SpaceX and NASA, they don't care about that. Because they know they've conditioned you, your future generations. They got 3 or 4 generations on lockdown. It's on lockdown. So they don't care about the little things that are happening on a day-to-day basis because your ass is locked down for the next 10 to 20 years. And that shifts based upon the consciousness of the people, just like the moves that are being made have to be shifted based upon the consciousness of the people. So the consciousness of the people right now, for example purposes, is being played with all this woke, awakened, enlightened, new age bullshit. No difference than going to the new Black Panther movie, calling yourself woke and awake. The Black Lives Matter program, sponsored by George Soros. The Black Panther movie is going to be the same thing, sponsored by the mainstream media. Those are the same people. That's the same thing. There's no escaping that. No matter how many woke quotes and all that awakened shit and all that pride you feel from that movie, it's all going to be coming from the same breakdown, literal breakdown. So what happens is, like all those feelings that suck you in, like look at the complexities of making a movie. The timing, the color, the sound, the effects, the story, the script, the superheroes, the villains, the relationships. That is a very complex organism. But what you see is entertainment. This is how it affects us. The subconscious thought that went into, and conscious thought that is so complex and extreme behind actually making that movie, that will affect you because you are allowing it to affect you because you've accepted it as entertainment and haven't done anything about what its real intentions are. So the same way that movie, the complexities of that movie are not really paid attention to, the same thing happens with the scientism community. They sell you an iPhone 7 as the evolutionary peak of reality to buy you in subconsciously into the evolution theory program of coming from monkeys and nothing from the Big Bang. And all these other theories of gravity and relativity and the heliocentric universe, they come as attachments. They come as a part of the original program that you don't even know you're a part of. You're just happy that you have an iPhone 7. No different than just being happy that you have a movie called the Black Panther movie that represents black people. Finally, we did it. What the fuck did you do? Nothing. You did nothing but enslave yourself even more. So this is what I'm saying in reference to the overcomplicating of their world to build themselves up as a superhero, like Bill Nye, Michio Kaku, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Elon Musk. They're like these super smart, superhuman, most evolved humans. That's why that's where their power comes from. So they overcomplicate that world, but sell you a red sports car flying through space. So SpaceX, what gets people to believe them into the superhero program is to distract you with a red sports car, with a Black Panther movie, and with your iPhone. That's it. You're on the you're on the far edge of that shit, and it's just constantly being bombarded. So this so-called civilization is promoted into our reality as if there's nothing else that exists. Evolution, the evolution theory promoted by the university system, is unquestionable. When that's unquestionable, the side effects to that reality are unquestionable. Western so-called civilization, unquestionably better than the savage nature, the primitive nature of the Native Americans and the indigenous people all over the world. Unquestionably better. This is what people are condoning when they believe in this system. Like the treaty talk earlier. What treaties, bitch? You're a savage. I don't respect you as a human being. You're an animal. We wrote those papers to make you think like things were going to be for your benefit. We wrote those treaties to buy time. We took advantage of your humanity in order to impose our will on your land and your people, and to be the foundation of our new world. If you are too stupid to fall for those rules, then you, according to the evolution theory, deserve to be conquered by God, manifest destiny. You deserve to fall by our sword. That is the mainstream mentality that people are not talking about. They don't care about you. Not only do they not care about you, they wear ribbons saying, "We don't care about you." Look at this ribbon. That's how much I don't care about you. You stupid ass. That's what a pink ribbon on a bucket of KFC chicken is. But we don't care about that because we're caught in the movie theater of what the pink ribbon is supposed to represent, of what fighting global warming is supposed to represent, of what the iPhone 7 is supposed to represent, the glory of the Western civilization. SpaceX, what sending a red sports car into space represents, the glory of Western patriotism and all this bullshit. Evolution, this is so garbage. You're stuck in a movie theater. So it goes down to the very nature of these people who are bought into this program and promoted into your face as the reality. Gordon Ramsay, all the food shows, the Food Network, these food competition, Iron Chef, like all this stuff. You think it's out there for your entertainment? No, it's out there for the cancer industry to dress up this world. So far that they've taken it to a science. You even have like food and wine pairing. It's the same thing. The acidifying of the body. Just like I'm saying, the mainstream reality is designed to acidify your soul. It's designed to turn you into a corrosive element. When you're talking about like the pH of who and what you are spiritually, the pH of who and what you are psychologically, and the pH of who and what you are physically. You're talking about purity and you're talking about corrosiveness. Corrosiveness is self-destructive, and if you're so corrosive, then you're not only self-destructive, but you are destructive to all these other people that come in and around your circle. That is what battery acid does to you. Up from battery acid is like the acid that's in wine, the acid that's in food, the acid that's in the education system, the acid that's in the political scene and the mainstream media. These acids, this information, this reality, all of this exists on the lower edge of who and what you are on the full spectrum of the soul, the mind, and the body. It hasn't even got up to water yet. The pH of all these acids, they all exist below 0 or below 7, because the pH of water is actually 7. That's the equilibrium. Beyond that are the higher pH values. But the point being is that water is the equilibrium purity point, whereas the mainstream consciousness of this Western so-called civilization is based upon corrosiveness, self-destruction, acidity, and based upon a science. The food, the pink ribbon on a KFC bucket, is the same thing that happens when they're talking about food and wine pairing and all this other stuff. We love it. I love a glass of wine, even having a beer. Even, some of the stuff that, the food that I know I shouldn't be eating, like the carbs that are out there, the stuff that, we accept this as our reality. And it takes some time to kind of weed that stuff out of your reality. But eventually, like the sugars. Okay, the sugars, in order to create the acid in the wines, it's based upon the sugar in the grapes. So this is why your entire mainstream reality is based upon sugar. Because once you ingest that sugar, the mainstream media, Hollywood, education system, the sexual programming, that's basically psychological and spiritual sugar. They're just promoting the sugar. But once you ingest that sugar, it becomes corrosive. It becomes acid in your body. And that acid, what I'm saying is, when you look at the pH scale, the acid is separating you from the purity of the water. So if you, built up of water molecules, are ingesting sugars that eventually turn, because they sell you the sugar, they're not going to tell you it's going to turn into acid, just like all this soy programming. They're going to promote all the soy programming because they don't give a shit about it, what it happens when it gets into your body and turns into sulfur, because they make money off of you being sick. So people call themselves vegetarians and all this other, I'm healthy and all this other stuff. If you're not actually doing the research, and this is not to come down on people again, this is just me sharing my own experience. I used to eat all that soy products thinking that, it's better than meat products. And in one way it is, but you're talking about 2 bags of shit. It's going to affect you the same way. It's going to acidify you regardless. So I'm using this terminology to give an example of how we are separated from our true nature. The purity of water, like the heart of a child, there's no acid in the body. There are acids in your body that break down all this stuff. And, I'm not saying completely. What I'm saying is that overall, the purity of a child, a baby just born, is not going to be bombarded by acidity, sugar, until the parent installs that into the reality. Once the parent does that, then it becomes their reality, and they create another body, another person, based upon what they've installed. The point is, they've sucked that baby away from the purity of the water into the world of acidity. And they say that's normal. But is that natural? No. What's natural is what the baby would do in nature with parents who are also raised and in relationship with nature. But this world is not based upon that. It's based upon power, control, dominance, based upon your self-destruction, your corrosiveness. So the food shows got it down to a science, psychologically. Pink ribbons, buckets of chicken. The same thing happens with the idea of modern medicine. They have to glorify themselves as superheroes in the world of modern medicine, not based upon what modern medicine is actually doing to people when they have McDonald's inside the hospitals. They're not going to talk about that stuff. They're going to talk like Bill Nye talks when he says, well, back in the day when my parents didn't have access to vaccines, they could have died. But since the vaccines were created around when they were alive in this university system, science came up with that. They were allowed to be healthy and to have me today. So now he's here selling the same mind control programs that his parents bought into, making you acidify your children. So this is that distraction world once you start asking questions that they have to suck you into. Like when you start going into the complexities of how they made the Black Panther movie, how they got the power to make the iPhone 7, how they got the power to make the space program and all that other stuff. How did they get the power to do all of that? You start asking questions, they got an answer lined up for you that will take you away from your power of understanding what's really going on here. That's why it doesn't matter what they are saying. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what they're going to say about the information that you're talking about, like flat earth. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you do with the information, not what they do with the information. Otherwise, you're going to be acting in reaction to every single moment of your life, in reaction to the slave masters. When you have the opportunity with this information in this moment to not be having to react anymore. That's not to say don't be aware. That's to say take your power back and do something with it. Don't take your power back and then just give it back to them. So modern medicine bulks up all of this stuff as if this is the end all be all of medicine. They won't tell you the history of medicine from the ancestors. They just want to say, no, new medicine is the only medicine that matters, and it fixed everything. The modern world fixed everything. Look at your hospitals, look at your schools, look at your political parties, look at your democracy, look at your capitalism, look at your phone, look at your computer, look at your homes. Everything is fixed. Yeah, it's fixed, all right. So the eugenics programming is another part of backing this whole system up. The eugenics is the science behind racism being accepted, like manifest destiny or white supremacy and the colonial genocide of the indigenous people of all around the world. It's designed to allow that stuff to be accepted based upon the science brought about by the same university system, the same people who are causing the pain and the genocide of all the people. They broke it down to a science and said, look, they're primitive, they're savage, their skull shapes are different, their skin color is savage and primitive. They have nothing to do with what our new world represents. They will only be a threat to our system. They deserve to be killed. They deserve to be genocided and massacred. Take them out and make a science that scientifically backs up why you took them out. And once you do that, then you say, hey, this is all dignified by the evolution theory. Don't you have a smartphone? Don't you like your computer? Don't you like your television? Don't you like this and that? Loving this system. Because you got a shiny rock on your finger. You don't look at the fact that it's based upon blood diamonds. That we get distracted by the shiny rock that represents the love that you have for your loved one. And we're completely separated from where that rock came from and what that rock represents. So they broke this down. I'm not going to get into this too much, the eugenics program. I'm just going to reference that the evolution theory system right now and the way that they're saying like everything is okay because this is the way it is. Everything that they're saying right now is scientifically backed up. Just like they're saying like, oh, you don't like science? Like that's like we're talking about genocide and massacre. You don't like science? You don't like your computer? You can't tell me you don't have this and this and this and this. It's on and on and on and on. It's sick. It's how far people are. So you literally can't even talk about history, let alone be connected with your ancestors and your present moment and your future generations. You can't even get out the gate. You can't get off the line. You can't get out the box quick enough. As soon as you step, they got some super glue right on your shoes. So demonizing, that evolution theory demonizes the people. The Western civilization demonizes the indigenous people and makes it okay that they were slaughtered and genocided because you have an iPhone 7. So it categorizes these people. And in those category, I mean, this shit it's not new. There's stories right now of people living in the Amazon who are being taken out, killed right now, today, Because the people who are going down there from this Western civilization and cutting down these trees so they can plant some trees to make more palm oil or some shit. So they're cutting down in people's entire ecosystems. Their entire worlds are being destroyed to this day. I mean, this is not new. They make movies off this shit to desensitize people. Look at the movie Medicine Man. Politics is putting a crown on certain people. The education system is putting crowns on certain people in order to keep a separation from everybody else, and in particular, to keep groups of people down, to keep certain people in their place and other people on the pedestal. That's what's going up. So they pump these people's heads up so much that they forgot that this land was stolen by people who were massacring the original people here. And if they haven't forgotten it, they've pushed it out of their reality because it's too much to deal with. Because the very nature of who and what they are, every part of what they are is based upon that illusion, and they buy into it and they love it. So another part of keeping certain people up and keeping other people down is when, like I said earlier, they pump the guns and the drugs into the communities. They made movies about this shit. They made that movie with Tom Cruise about the Bill Clinton time frame when they was running drugs from the Contra and the Iran Contra deal and all the shit that was going down, the coke deals that was going down in South America between the CIA. And they was running that shit through Arkansas while Bill Clinton was governor. And then they make a movie with Tom Cruise about it, making him a fucking cool guy. He's a superhero. And then they put it out there all like, yeah, there's good people in Hollywood. There's good people in Hollywood. You stay in that bubble of there's good people in Hollywood. And you totally, completely forget the intention behind the very system that presupposes Hollywood. The criminal nature at the foundation of this so-called Western civilization, at the foundation of Hollywood, that's the focus. But you can't focus on that because you think Tom Cruise is a superhero. You think Hollywood has some good people in there because they're releasing this information. Are they? Or are they dumbing your ass down? You won't know based upon the consciousness that you are. You're going to think that they're bringing you up if you are at a certain level of consciousness, and you'll know that they're trying to bring people down once you get to another level of once you transcend that shit and get to somewhere else. Start thinking for yourself instead of thinking what they want you to think. Once they've created the atmosphere that certain people are more evolved, certain people are deemed by God to be controlling of other people. Some people are primitive and some people are savage. All they have to do is create certain situations that back up their claims. So these situations are pumping drugs into the community, pumping guns into the communities, making the education system of the inner city communities horrible. So they have the appearance of being stupid, ignorant, ridiculous slaves. So they create the atmosphere that backs up their claims that your people deserved to be slaughtered and massacred. So this is why the local news promotes that mentality every single day. So subconsciously, you're being programmed to think about things and certain people, and you don't even see it. It's happening every single day. So the system itself, it just confirms the initial claims. So when they put guns and all these murders and rapes and all this other stuff, and they put these pictures, these images of people being just like gangsters and thugs and all that other stuff, that is to add confirmation to the original claim that everybody who is not so-called white is a primitive and a savage. And we accept this every single day. And not many people are saying anything about it, largely because people don't see it this way. And also because people are scared of it. And beyond that, other people are also benefiting from that. That's why a lot of so-called white people don't say anything about it, because subconsciously they know they have a so-called white privilege. They know they get something out of this shit being so fucked up. So they're not going to say anything. They only want change to go so far, and they want to be leaders of that change. So as people are being brought down, other people are being brought up. Like I said earlier, Hollywood, politics, the education system, the mainstream media. This is to promote, this is why they whitewash all of Hollywood. They whitewash the public education system, the political scene, the social media scene, the scientism scene. All of it is to follow these corrosive demigods. They have made themselves demigods in an illusory universe.